This skill isn't taught in school. In fact, 95% of you watching this right now will never actually do this. Don't be one of them. Be in the 5% who actually take action after watching this video. Skills compound. A penny doubled every day for 31 days is more than $5 million. Skills compound too. Practice. Anyway, like I told you in the last video, we're still talking about signature stories. Now, what are those? They're this concept from this guy named Sean Purry, and he built and sold a newsletter for millions of dollars called The Milk Road, and he's used storytelling and these signature stories to build a life where he can do interesting things, and money is the exhaust of his interest. So if you want to be able to do that, then learn this skill. Here we go. So, you want to have amazing friendships. If you implement these ideas, your friends will ask, how did you know or remember that? Is that the right? How did you know or remember that? Today, I'm revealing a secret. It's a secret that allowed me to give a friend of mine her exact boba order. It allowed me to give someone else a $150 gift card and a Twinkie. I got another friend his favorite granola from Trader Joe's, and I sent Starbucks to friends and family hundreds and thousands of miles away. Okay, so how do you read your friends' minds? Here's how. 5-day friendship. In the very bottom of the description, there's a link to that. It's a 5-day course to help you be a better friend in 10 minutes or less a day. It's just 5 days. Normally, it's $97. But for you guys who are watching this, it's actually free if you use the code FREE at checkout. I just want you to use it. So that's my gift to you for watching this. So now, here's the story. I wanted Caitlin to like me. You know that middle school or high school crush? Yeah, that one. I also wanted to be cool, like Aaron. Remember when you were younger and people who were in college seemed like they were so old and so cool? I wanted that too. I also wanted to be closer to my dad. We didn't have much in common, and I wondered if I became a better drummer, would we relate better and grow closer? Now imagine you grew up in a musical family. Your dad was a drummer, your mom majored at voice from University of Michigan. So naturally you'd think, you'd be a great musician right out of the gate, right? Wrong. I played drums for 5 years, but one summer I implemented this 3x3 rule. Now I know what you're asking. What's the 3x3 rule? It's where I wouldn't let myself hang out with friends or go to the pool until I practiced for 3 hours a day, and ideally I'd have that done by 3 p.m., hence 3x3. I also kept a notebook logging all my practice time, broken down by categories of like hands, feet, mixed, if there were other things, jazz, if other things I was working on. But here's the thing, I was rejected from the worship team at the church that I went to 3 different times. And I'll never forget this moment. Something pretty scary happened. I was practicing a song, then mid-song, my body started unconsciously crying. And I asked myself, what's happening? I'm not sad. Like, why am I crying? But then there was this door over to the side, and it's got windows in it, 9 panes of glass, kind of like tic-tac-toe, like a tic-tac-toe board. And I could just sense this evil presence outside the door. And it was looking in. And you can think of it kind of like a Soul Eater from Harry Potter, except real. And somehow I knew playing drums must matter. Why would there be such significant opposition if there wasn't going to be any real result from what I was doing? And this happened semi-frequently. Anytime that I would play downstairs in the dark after my dad was gone, there was a risk of this happening. There was opposition, not just external, but even within my own home, even though both my parents were super supportive. And it got to the point where I'd stop practicing at the kit downstairs and finish my sessions upstairs on just a practice pad because I was afraid to stay down there. And honestly, probably stunted my growth. But I kept hitting walls. There were so many things that I didn't know. I'd moved to Sacramento to answer a question. How much better at drums could I get? But despite all my effort, it felt like an eternity before I was able to start playing drums up here. And there were two drummers, both who were far better than I was, who were already playing. And now I still wanted to be like Aaron. I still wanted to get the girl. I still wanted the connection with my dad. Yet I still didn't make the cut. Then someone stepped in. That man was Noah Dion. And Noah was one of two drummers who were better than I was. But he went to battle for me. He even refused to play a scheduled event, a staff meeting, and recommended me instead. And then he helped me practice for 2 hours so that way I would nail it. And I owe so much to Noah and his belief in me. He helped me significantly over the course of those 2 months. But what I didn't know was that something big was right around the corner. I got to play drums at Bayside College, and Noah would play bass and MD. And this was such a sweet time because he primarily was a drummer but could also play other things. But it didn't last. So Noah got sick. He had to fly back to New York. And then suddenly there was this void, a drummer-shaped void. And I wasn't as good, but I was available. And all of a sudden, I was playing drums 4 times a week. I'd be playing a song I'd learned 2 hours ago, struggling to remember if the bridge built 3 times or 4 times. Playing Reckless Love, I crashed in so confidently at exactly the wrong time. I was in 6/8, my brain had switched to 4/4. But in the next 6 months, I played live over 100 times in a bunch of different environments. I learned how to learn songs in under 2 hours. I learned how to be present and watch the worship leader and go off of the normal structure to let the Spirit move in moments. And I'll never forget how special Bayside College was during that time and how God moved through worship. It was such an epic team. For the first time, I felt like I belonged, that I made it, finally. And I wasn't perfect. I still made mistakes. But for the first time, I could hang. I could be present. I'd become Aaron. I'd become the drummer that I wanted to be at 22. And I was doing what I'd always dreamed of doing. And it gave me something in common with my dad. We connected over performance, and that was cool. And honestly, it hasn't gotten me the girl yet. But who knows? It might still work. And now, after 15 years, and the first 7 years, I played for less than 200 people. I've now played live in front of over 80,000 people over the last 8 years. And that presence that didn't want me to do this, man, it was right. Me playing drums did matter a lot. And because I kept going, so many people have experienced the presence of God through the gift that he gave me and that I cultivated. So that's the story, and it's still developing as I keep playing drums. I still will play at Bridgeway or Bayside Auburn from time to time. I love the power, I love the control, I love the structure of it. It's so predictable yet unpredictable. And I love that, the yin and yang of music, structure and flow all in one. I love the violence of music, the dynamics, the ebb and flow, the highs and the lows, contrast, beauty, sweat, blood, tears. So many years, so much longing, fulfilled. Well, I gotta catch a flight. Enjoy. So here's the action. Here's how you apply this. That was the story. I hope you enjoyed it. But now that you've heard my second signature story, here's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to practice one story this week. At first, it'll feel overwhelming, but by the end, you'll be able to build these stories yourself, and it'll almost feel like this superpower. And don't miss it, because isn't it already getting a little bit easier the second time? The second thing is to accept this is lame. Writing out and practicing your story will feel lame, and that's okay. The benefit of that is that because it feels lame, most people won't do it. So if you do it, you actually have a huge advantage. And the third thing is to write like you talk. So how do you do this? Whenever I'm going to tell a story or I have an idea that I want to work on, I'll do a voice memo to myself first, or transcribe something via my phone. And that helps me get the majority of what I want to say down first. And then the other thing is, before I go to write, I'll do that voice memo. I'll also write out what's the emotion that I want to evoke. Like with these, I want to inspire you. What's the idea? The idea is to write your signature story or talk about signature stories. And the action is to write a story. So you want the emotion, the idea, and then what's the action? And then the other thing is, within every story, you want an intention. What do you want? And an obstacle. What's in the way of you getting there? And then in the voice memo that you sent to yourself, you've got a beginning of here's where the story kind of starts. The middle, ideally focus on a moment of struggle or challenge. And then the third thing is, how did it end? And who did you become? And what did you achieve? Those are the two different story arcs at the end of a story. And side note, you need to have an obstacle. People want you to succeed, but not right away. And this is Pixar's storytelling rule, which is people don't love stories because the hero succeeds. They love the story because of how hard the hero tries. So remember, if this is your second story, it'll probably suck, but that's okay. Like I said, I've been listening to the same podcast for the last 6 months. And that's why I'm giving you 5 weeks to get better at this. It isn't overnight. But man, if this is your first or your second story, I hope you're actually doing this. And if you're saying to yourself, man, I don't have any stories, my life isn't that interesting, here's the thing. That's not true. There are little moments happening every single day of your life, but I bet you're not capturing them. So the first thing is to start with something simple. If you have a business, start with that. See, people love to buy from people. So be a person. Share your story, share your struggle, and people will be rooting for your success. I know that I sure am. So again, like I said at the beginning of this video, there is that 5-day course below. With that, you use that code FREE, you can get it for free. There's also the link to my newsletter. It comes out every Saturday. It's Discover How to Be a Better Friend in 10 minutes or less. Please go and subscribe to that newsletter. That's the best thing that you can do. And then if you actually share and create your first story, please DM that to me on Instagram. I would love to co-create with you these stories. So yeah, I hope you do those, and I'm excited to hear what you make. Adios.